Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to All the WrestleManias. I'm your co-host, Tim Hackman.
And I'm your co-host, Rich Sigwald.
Thanks for listening to us today. We're really excited to get into WrestleMania 20. It's in our name. It's what we do. So we're happy and thrilled to be able to break it down for you. We hope you enjoyed our most recent popcorn match episode on the Anoa'i Wrestling Dynasty. Rich took an in-depth look at the huge, both literally and figuratively, talent in that family, including the Wild Samoans, Rikishi, Yokozuna, the Usos, Roman Reigns, and much, much more. So check it out wherever you find your favorite podcast and give it a listen. So our episode today is all about WrestleMania 20, as we said. But first, we wanted to just, hit some of the highlights of some new wrestling content and kind of what we're up to. Rich has been hard at work churning out variations on our theme song for you. He's got a few really fun ones that we'll be putting up on YouTube and on the website real soon.
Yeah, they're great. They've basically, I just sit down and suddenly like, what if I did this? And then something horrible comes out of my mind, and it happens.
What if Charlie Parker came back to life and could only play all the WrestleMania's theme songs?
Yeah. What if I sang 5-part harmony of the entire theme song? You know what? We should get into ASMR.
Oh, yeah. No, that's a good idea. It's
Yeah.
so hot right now. I'm tingling, Rich. Stop it. All right.
Well, that's the point.
Some other happenings. We're going to be at Baltimore Celeb Fest 4, which is happening in May. I think it's May 15th, I think. There's a lot of really cool people on the schedule to be there. I'm personally very excited about meeting Greg the Hammer Valentine. And Rich, I know you had some guys you were excited about.
I've already bought my photo op for Sting and for Jake the Snake Roberts.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. I hope other people will join us there. It'll be a great time.
Yeah, I think Thunder Rosa is supposed to be there too. She's one of my favorites from AEW, so I'm kind of hoping to see her and not be weird about it at all.
I mean, she was also one of our favorites in Lucha Underground too, when she was wee young.
Yeah, she was the Snake Lady, whatever her name was.
Yeah.
And we also just ordered ourselves some All the WrestleMania T-shirts because we can't help ourselves. So, yeah, if you're going to Baltimore Celeb Fest, look for us. We'll be the two giant
Dorks
nerds
in the matching shirts.
giant nerds in matching podcast shirts. So say hi for sure. The other thing where we'll be wearing our matching shirts and creeping everybody out is the AEW Dynamite show coming up at UMBC. That's also in May, I think.
Yeah, that's May 4th, Star Wars Day.
Oh shit, that's even closer than I realized. So
yeah, it's pretty soon.
I better start working on my self-tanner.
Oiling up.
Get all greasy. Yeah, so again, we'll be there. So if you see us, come say hi. We got fancy business cards too, so we can give you one of those. Let's see, any other wrestling content? Oh yeah, the Young Rock is back on NBC and on the Peacock. If you've read the blog, we kind of nerd out a little bit on the Young Rock. And look, we know that it's not wrestling history. We know that a lot of the shit didn't happen. We're okay with that. The actors are super charming. The stories are cute and sort of heartfelt. I personally enjoyed it a great deal, even while I realized it's not, like I said, it's not a documentary, people.
They got to give an Emmy to that guy that plays Andre the Giant. Like, oh my God. The holiday special, he like ripped my heart out of my chest. So
that's
adorable.
great.
Yeah.
And the modern day segments or slight futurist segments where Rock is running for president and he's doing all these interviews with NBC, or I think are kind of amusing too. They're sort of like poking fun at the whole political news cycle thing.
Yeah, it's great.
All right, I think that's all the non-WrestleMania content that we have for the moment. So I guess you ready to do this?
Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So just a reminder that you can find us on the web at allthewrestlemanias.com. That'll take you to our podcast homepage. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at All the WrestleManias. And we love getting your comments and questions on Twitter at WrestleManiaPod or by email at allthewrestlemanias@gmail.com. So reach out to us through one of those methods. Send us your comments, your questions. We love to get your feedback. And thanks again for listening to us.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
Right. So WrestleMania 20. WrestleMania XX, WrestleMania Dos Equis,
WrestleMania Forever, literally.
It lasts so long. We're gonna try to do this podcast in less than the 4 hours and 30 minutes that it takes to do the show, but no promises. At some point, Richard's child is going to come home from daycare, and then we're going to have to stop one way or another. So it was held March 14th, 2004. It was held at Madison Square Garden, of course, where it all began. The attendance is listed at 20,000, but that's a suspiciously round number, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. The pay-per-view buys on this are just a little over 1 million, 1,020,000. And again, the tagline is "Where it all begins." ... Again.
That makes no sense.
No, it doesn't. But I think it's because we're back at Madison Square Garden, like the first one. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know.
I mean, grammatically, it's bad.
Yeah.
It can't be begins again. It should be where it all began.
Yes.
Again, maybe. It hurts my brain. Okay,
Yeah.
let's move on.
Yeah, as an aging English major, it makes me a little bit mad. But again, I don't want to turn into William Sapphire here. But the runtime on this one is 4 hours, 30 minutes, and 55 seconds. And once again, we've got Michael Cole and Taz on announcing duties for the SmackDown matches. And we've got JR, Jim Ross, and Jerry the King Lawler on announcing duties for the Raw matches. So we got the split announcing things again. Rich, is there anything about the history of this one that you wanted to talk about a little bit before we get started?
Put things in perspective. At this point now, the WWE has split their pay-per-views into the brands as well. So there's some pay-per-views that are Monday Night Raw talent, and then there's some pay-per-views that are SmackDown talent. And then the big four is where they all come back together. That
Again.
being right, that's again is so like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, the Royal Rumble, and Survivor Series all feature both brands, while the other ones, like First Blood or whatever you want to call them, have only SmackDown or only Raw talent. So this is the third WrestleMania to happen at Madison Square Garden, and this apparently is the highest grossing WWE event ever at Madison Square Garden.
Wow.
Where I think they grossed like $2.4 million in ticket sales, I believe.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be fun to look at the history of Madison Square Garden with this, because actually looking at the revenue stuff, it turned up some interesting things that I was unaware of, such as in 1879, the first artificial ice rink in the world was installed at Madison Square Garden.
Oh.
In 1898, Nikola Tesla demonstrated a remote control robot in Madison Square Garden. I'm sure that was terrifying to everybody in 1898.
That'd be terrifying to me now.
Yeah.
I'm very easily spooked.
Oh yeah, robots. Ugh. In 1934, the first college basketball game took place between Notre Dame and NYU. And in 1940, it was the first televised basketball game came from Madison Square Garden, and it was Fordham University versus Pitt. The first televised boxing match was in 1954, and that came from the Garden, and it was Joey Giardello versus Willie Tory, and Giardello won by knockout. In 1962, John F. Kennedy's birthday celebration was held at Madison Square Garden, and that is where Marilyn Monroe sang "Happy Birthday" all sexy to the president and creeped out everybody. And,
awkward.
I'm pretty sure his wife's there.
I'm pretty sure John slept on the couch that night, right? Like, there's no fucking way.
No, yeah. But yet with like an ankle monitor so that Jackie knows where he's at. She knew
all the time.
Yeah, and to get into some wrestling history there, in 1984, the Iron Sheik puts over Hulk Hogan, and that basically created Hulkamania. In 1985, we had the first WrestleMania, and in 1988, the first SummerSlam was at Madison Square Garden. And in 2002, the first Elimination Chamber match, which was at a Survivor Series, took place at Madison Square Garden. So in terms of storylines, it's modern day WWE, so everything's convoluted, and we don't have enough time to really break down the ridiculousness of most of the stories. What we will go into is the main storylines for the title belts. So Triple H and Shawn Michaels had fought to a draw at the Royal Rumble, and they wanted a rematch at each other again. But Chris Benoit won the Royal Rumble that year, and that gives him a legit shot at the title. And so to settle everything and make everybody happy, triple threat match. The Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle story is practically identical to the Triple H and Booker T angle from WrestleMania 19, where Angle doesn't feel like Eddie is a proper representation for the brand and should not be in a champion. Blah blah blah. Eddie comes up from the ghetto and the streets, and he's not legitimate. He does drugs. Blah 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 blah. And that's pretty much where we're at for this WrestleMania.
All right. Nice. Thanks for running down the history for us. I just looked up the inflation calculator while you were talking, and the 2.4 million that this show made in 2004 was today would be $3.6 million. So off of a single event, that's pretty damn impressive.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, for real. All right, so let's get down to it. The Boys Choir of Harlem does America the Beautiful. And we've talked a little bit before about, how we sort of enjoyed these musical beginnings, kind of the pageantry to these shows. It sort of went away for a little while. But I think the big difference here is the Iraq War is in full swing, and so we're all in mandatory patriotism mode. But the Boys Choir does a nice job.
The Boys Choir knocked it out. They were great. And it was also very obvious that they had cut the mics that were made to pick up crowd noise so that you didn't have some asshole screaming during the Boys Choir singing.
Very smart move by production there. And then you get a little video intro. It's pretty darn ridiculous. Vince is on a dark stage, and you get the voiceover. 20 years ago, one man had a vision. It began here, and it would change our world. I mean, this isn't penicillin. Like, it didn't change the world. I mean, it changed wrestling. It changed sports entertainment.
Yeah.
Gave us Hulkamania. I don't know if any of those things changed the world, though.
First, I have a question. At WrestleMania 19, didn't Vince and Hogan fight to decide who created WrestleMania?
That's true. They did.
And the cat fight girls fought over this. And it was very clear and it was decisive that Hogan created WrestleMania because he won the match.
Well,
so now the next year we have a video package saying, forget all that. Vince did it.
That's the golden rule, Rich. He who has the gold makes the rules. I saw that on a sign at Walmart, I think.
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah. We also get the where it all begins again because they can't help themselves. And then that video ends with Vince and Shane and a little baby McMahon, just promising us more generations of McMahons and WrestleManias.
Which is hilarious now that Shane has been fired from the WWE.
Yeah. All right. So this is a monster card, like just in terms of length and the number of like special matches and on and on and on. So as we were sort of planning out this episode, I think we both kind of came to the conclusion that we may need to kind of do some skimming of these early matches and maybe less exciting matches to get to the actually better parts of the card. So if we don't talk in depth about your favorite match, we're sorry. You can email us, you can tweet at us, you can get very angry if you want. We don't care.
But you need to understand the sacrifice we made to sit down and watch all 4.5 hours of this WrestleMania.
And once again, Rich's child will be coming home at some point, and we're going to have to deal with that. So,
I mean, at some point I got to cook dinner, and at some point I need to go to bed and get up tomorrow. So,
and continue your life.
Right.
All right. So with that in mind, we got John Cena versus The Big Show to kick things off. This is a WWE United States Championship match. It's a SmackDown match. It's our first John Cena appearance on a WrestleMania. That's exciting. What do you want to talk about here? Anything?
This is back in the day when I liked Cena. Because John Cena would freestyle on his way to the ring. So he didn't do that in this, but he did drop one line once he was in the ring that he's itching to beat the Big Show like a penis with an STD.
That's disgusting.
I was like, I don't think Again, grammar, I don't think it works that way. I don't.
No. Also, how much direct experience does John Cena have with STDs that he's able to make that analogy?
Yeah, it doesn't. Ugh, ugh, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, he's super over here though. The crowd
Yeah,
is really into him. We're not quite to the point where he sort of gets overexposed and people start the Cena sucks chant. So this is all still babyface over for Mr. Cena.
yeah. And on the opposite side of that, Big Show looks like shit here. Like
He looks awful.
he had looked really fit and tight at WrestleMania 19, but just a year later, it's bad. Um, but Big Show is doing a better job of the whole less is more approach. Being a big man, pushing him around, throwing him around, standing on him, pushing on him, punching him, kind of fight as opposed to any kind of real maneuvers.
Yeah, I mean, so Big Show starts out kind of on top here, as you would expect, because he's friggin' monstrous, and he beats up Cena for quite a while. Cena makes his comeback. I sort of read this match honestly as kind of a throwback to Hogan and Andre. You know, again, I mean, dipping into the WrestleMania history and the Giant versus the the major baby face, and his equivalent of the Hogan slamming Andre is to pick up the Big Show on his shoulders for his finishing move. But the first time Big Show kicks out,
Yeah, that's a really good analogy here of like if you don't have the time to watch this match, just go watch Andre versus Hulk Hogan, and then be slightly disappointed, and and you'll
that
have
match is
this.
that match is so much shorter too, so that's
Yeah,
better.
but yeah, it is really impressive when Cena gets the Big Show up on his shoulders for the, I guess what do they call it back then, the STFU, and then he does it again after hitting the Big Show with brass knuckles as
Yeah.
well. So again, and it's even like Hogan doing heel stuff as the face. Yeah, this is the meteoric rise of John Cena starting right before your very eyes in this match.
And even the announcers say, John Cena has slain the giant. All right, it's like, all right, in case you didn't quite get it at home. All right. I think that wraps that one up pretty quickly. Got a quick little interlude with Jonathan Coachman backstage. There's a whole bunch of cameos as he's kind of wandering around. I think we saw Teddy Long and Eric Bischoff. Did you catch anybody else in that?
Johnny Nitro was in the room with Eric
Oh,
Bischoff.
yeah.
Teddy Long, right? So like it was like a Goodfellas kind of segment where like he's
Yeah.
walking through the hallway talking to people that he knows, saying hi and stuff like that. Like he's a made man or something like that.
Watch out for this guy over here. Huh?
Yeah, kind of thing. And then he goes into Eric Bischoff's office, and Bischoff tells him to go find the Undertaker because it's supposedly the Undertaker's there. It's like, well, we know the Undertaker's there. He's on the card.
I freaking hope so. I hope he's there.
Yeah.
And then we get an Evolution promo with Randy Orton, and Randy is confessing to
Oh.
committing felonious assault on Mick Foley by kicking him down a flight of stairs. Uh, I know how you feel about Randy Orton, Rich. It's okay.
Oh my God, he's so boring. And like he summarizes what everybody's already seen first. That's how he starts this. This is where a lot of the time of that 4.5 hours comes from. It's like this promo is like, I don't know, like 8 minutes long. And it's just Randy Orton just talking and talking. And like Ric Flair is standing next to him saying nothing, just smirking, and it's 10 times more engaging than Randy Orton in this segment.
If you've got two guys to put on camera, and one of them is Randy Orton, and one of them's Rick goddamn Flair, like what? That's not even a decision. You know, you don't even have to flip a coin. Like that's an easy one.
No, you put Space Mountain on the mic and let Randy Orton just be pretty over in the corner.
Yeah, he
Like,
could stand there and look whatever he looks like.
he should be smirking, and Flair should be talking.
All right, so that ends finally. And then we get on to a fatal four-way for the World Tag Team Championship belt, which is the Raw Tag Team belt. And this one, all right, you guys ready for this one? This is Booker T and Rob Van Dam. So yay for Booker T. The Dudley Boys, Garrison Cade and Mark Jindrak, who neither of whom I remembered. Sorry, guys. La Resistance, which is Rene Dupree and Rob Conway. And I don't know. So first of all, I don't remember half of these guys, so no offense to them. But
There is zero pop for La Resistance when they come out. So
yeah.
I don't think that crowd then even remembered them.
I mean, I know French guys are always bad, right? They're always They're
Permanently
always
bad.
permanently bad. I think this was probably also around the time of the whole, Iraq War, freedom fries, horse shit. So there's probably some anti-French sentiment going on there. I don't have a whole lot to say. I did wonder why Bubba
Yeah.
Ray's shorts were so short.
It
They're
is a little
uncomfortably
uncomfortable.
short.
Yeah.
Yeah, for such a big guy, those things need to go to the knee if you're that size.
The real things that I really only noted down with this one is that when the match breaks down in a predictable way, I feel bad that Booker T is now stuck in the tag division, which is getting less and less attention, made obvious by the fact that like they can't even bother building up a real feud to just have two tag teams face each other for the championship. It's got to be a fatal four-way tag match because they just want to do all the tag teams at once and not really bother with them. Jerry Lawler is a bit more tame about his commentary on Booker T in this match. And also, so RVD gets the pin on the guy from Love Resistance to continue as champions. And at that point, the Dudleys nor Jindrak and Cade had ever been made legal participants in the match. They were never tagged in.
Yeah, I so I did a little quick math while I was watching this, and there are 48 possible combinations of individuals. So usually when you watch these matches, like every individual gets a turn at least at one point. But yeah, 48 combinations, and only 12 of those combinations involve the actual champion. So that statistically, that means that the winner and the title is most likely to be decided by someone other than one of the champions. And that is the reason why these fatal four-way matches suck balls. I also want to point out that all my favorite moments from this match involve Booker T. He's still such a stud. He does a super kick and the crowd goes, "Oh!" That's a really
Yeah,
good one. And
I
then
I I don't understand what like WWE is looking at this time. Like, how are they not seeing that Booker T needs to be upfront with everybody? Like, he needs to be in the mix for the title at this time again, nonstop.
yeah,
So
he should be beating all these guys and shouldn't even be a thing. He also does a really bitchin' spine buster kind of late in the match. That was really textbook. So, all right, one fatal four-way down. We have actually another one of these on the card. It's not coming up just yet, but right now we got to look at Jonathan Coachman a little bit more. He's still looking for the Undertaker. I actually got a kick out of this segment. He finds Mean Gene and Bobby Heenan in a what is it, like a storage room or something?
yeah, and
And they
they are
they're making out.
they're porking May Young and Moolah.
Hell yeah. But when they first come out, they were both all disheveled and like kind of looked like, Gene and Bobby might have been making out. I'm like,
Yeah, it was kind of like, interesting.
that's cool, guys. Go
I
for it.
ship it. I ship it.
Yeah, whatever you got to do, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, then Lawler says, "Oh, they were probably playing Naked Twister, which is not a thing." Jerry, like, just no.
No one even plays normal Twister.
Are you are you ready for Christian and Chris Jericho?
Yeah, I just want to point out that it takes 10 minutes to get from RVD pinning La Resistance to the opening bell of Jericho versus Christian because these damn video promos and interruptions in the show. And it's just like setting the tone for what we get in future WrestleManias of, oh my God, it's so long, and not because there's a ton of matches.
That's really bad. I didn't clock that, but that's awful.
Yeah.
So the video set up for this one is Jericho and Christian are feuding over Trish Stratus. I don't know. She's with Christian, and then she and Jericho are fooling around. There's like a really extra gross close up of Jericho and Trish kissing that made me want to throw up. I don't know. It's just a bunch of shenanigans. It doesn't matter. But I do, I was sort of hopeful for this one. There's just two, really talented, athletic guys. I like the Canadians.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. What do you think?
I noted that like JR mentions how Jericho probably isn't keeping count of how many WrestleManias or matches he's been in. But then it turns out JR is actually wrong, that we've learned that Jericho has kept an immaculate record of every match that he's ever been
Yeah.
in.
And he rates himself too.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, that was a 5-star match. Like, all right, Chris.
they're all 5 stars. Just like how we think all of our podcast episodes are 5 stars.
Right. Well, that's because they are. But not all of Chris Jericho's matches are 5 stars.
No.
Chris Jericho was Dave Meltzer before Dave Meltzer became Dave Meltzer today, where he just thinks everything is that he likes is great.
Everything's amazing. I did think that there was some interesting storytelling in this match. That Jericho, who's normally a much more technical wrestler, is actually doing a lot more brawling. There's more striking and kicking in this match, keeping the illegal holds on right up to the end of the 5 count and stuff. So that, like, really selling that, like, they're just wanting to try and hurt each other most without getting disqualified. Christian locked in a really impressive Texas Cloverleaf on Jericho. The ending of this match is shenanigans. Trish elbows Jericho by accident, and Christian rolls him up and gets the win. And then, like, Jericho is trying to talk to Trish afterwards, and then Trish turns on him, hits him, and then Christian grabs a handful of Trish's hair, and they start making out like all rough style in the ring.
That's gross
Um,
too.
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to kink shame. If that's what you like, that's what you like. But it was kind of weird, and like the crowd is super hot now that Trish has turned heel.
Well, so I mean, the way I read that was that the whole thing was a work, right? Even like all
Right.
of her messing around with Jericho was even a work. So I mean, that's commitment, you know. Like, I mean, I assume they at least got to third base, you know, all for just to
Just
bamboozle him in WrestleMania. So
right. Just to make him look like an idiot.
yeah, I mean, he
Well,
doesn't really need much help there. But
he doesn't.
the other move that I wrote down for this one is when Jericho gets the walls of Jericho, but Christian is real close to the ropes and the edge of the ring, and they both kind of spill out like while they keep the hold on,
Oh
which I
yeah.
thought that was really pretty cool.
That was probably one of the more impressive moments of this whole WrestleMania.
Yeah. And I think you observed maybe last time or the time before that Christian has a derp face, and it hasn't gotten any better for this one.
Yeah, at least some of the baby fat's gone now from it, but he's not making the intentional, like, kind of face that he had been making.
Somebody must have had a talking with him.
Yeah.
I also really don't like when the male wrestlers like manhandle the female wrestlers and like slap them around and stuff. I don't know. I liked when Lucha Underground used to do the male and female, you know, together. That was more of sort of an equal thing. There's some pieces here where like Christian like kind of just slaps Trish around. Just I don't know. It just always comes across as ugly to me, and I don't care for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to say about, like, the environment that the world building that WWE does builds this very much a bit of a male chauvinist angle that women are more property and eye candy than they are human beings. And then you see behavior like that and treatment like that, and you just kind of it feels gross, especially in looking at it through a 2022 lens.
Yeah, for sure. So, um, all right, so that wraps up that match, and we get Mick Foley and The Rock backstage. You know, I'm excited to see them here together. They're both, you know, kind of past their main WWE heyday, but you know, we like those guys. But that backstage means more and more cameos. We got Hurricane Helms, Jimmy Superfly Snuka, Don Morocco, Rosie from the Anoa'i family. I kind of, at this point, we kind of both thought maybe that they're just doing these cameos, so we have to pad our in memoriam segment on this episode, but um, it evened out a little bit after that.
Yeah, and also they're just doing it to get them the payday.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad Jimmy Snuka got paid, and I'm always glad when Shane Helms gets paid because that guy's cool.
Did I ever tell you my Jimmy Snuka story?
Uh, I feel like I'd remember, so probably not.
Yeah, so Jimmy Snuka was performing at a MEWF show at the Catonsville Armory, and I went to it with my dad. And you know, the wrestlers always do autographs and stuff like that during the intermission and stuff. And Snuka didn't come out to do that. So after the whole event ended, I waited by the locker room like everyone else was doing to wait for the wrestlers to come out. And Snuka comes out, and I'm like, Mr. Snuka, can you sign? Can you sign? And he just ignores me and just keeps walking. And like 3 other kids come up to him, and he just ignores all of them and walks right out of the building and leaves.
Wow.
And someone from MEWF tells me Jimmy doesn't like kids. He doesn't talk to kids. He won't sign for kids.
Oh man.
Yeah, and like at intermission, like he wouldn't even do like the $10 Polaroid
Yeah.
photo or anything like that for people like all the other wrestlers were doing. Because I think Jim the Anvil Neidhart might have been at that same show.
Oh
So
man.
yeah, it was that's burned into my memory now, and that happened almost 30 years ago at this point, and
How,
I just remember Snuka being a dick.
oh, that's pretty shitty.
Yeah.
So, how many times have you told your therapist that story?
This is the first time I've told you,
Yeah, maybe
so
you do some work on that. I think it's clearly causing some problems. So,
I still have nightmares about Snuka.
yeah. There was that time that Georgie Animal Steel was kind of mean to me, but that was just because I was like standing there, like staring at him. And he was like, "Come on, kid. Like, what do you want?" Like,
Like Santa Claus in the Christmas
yeah,
Story.
yeah. I was a little bit starstruck. All right, let's see. What do we got? A handicap match. We've got Evolution, which is Dave Batista, Randy, I'm So Boring, Orton, Rick, Space Mountain Flair, versus the Rock and Sock Connection, which is Mick Foley and The Rock. This one runs 17 minutes, so it's a long one. Mick is back after about 4 years off, I think. This is the second WrestleMania appearance for Randy Orton and the first Dave Batista appearance. I don't know. This actually turned out to be not terrible, but also, three of these people are The Rock, Mick Foley, and Ric Flair. So, what do you think?
Well, I would have rather this instead of being a handicap match of like put Flair and The Rock against each other in a fairly short match. You put Orton and Foley together, and then you find someone else for Batista to fight in 3 singles matches. Like this is, and then yeah, you can have all of them go over the Foley and The Rock and whoever, so that evolution gets built up. Because like we start off with a fantasy match between Rock and Flair, and there's some great spots, and then it just goes away.
Yeah. And it lasts for freaking ever. Like, did note that the crowd like loses its mind every time Foley does anything. Like, even just
Yeah.
a punch, like they pop for him. Randy is like really overselling throughout here. I felt like Dave Batista actually didn't get to do very much, and that's because there's too
No.
damn many people in this match.
Right.
All right, listeners, we're just making perplexed noises, which
Uh,
I'm sure is not the most compelling thing you can hear on the internet, but I think that kind of sums up our reaction to this match. I'll also say that if you like chops, this is a match for you because everybody gets chopped at some point in or other.
yeah. Yeah, I wrote down Flair chops on the Rock. Yikes! Like
Yeah,
they were devastatingly loud and sounded very painful.
even his chops on Foley, and Foley's wearing a T-shirt, are
Yeah,
sound really loud and painful.
yeah. There was one highlight, and that's Flair and the Rock exchange people's elbows, which was amusing. But it turns a circus. This match, it's almost a comedy bit.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. Actually, I think this is more of a comedy match than anything else. But that exchange of people's elbows that did make me laugh. They both do their strut. They both do the people's elbow. They do all the stuff there. Anything else you want to say about this one?
Of course, Orton wins.
Hate that guy.
Yeah.
All right, next up, actually, it was a really nice moment. I thought it was a little video package from the Hall of Fame induction ceremony, which was an outstanding class that year, 2004. So Mean Gene Okerlund then brings all of them out onto stage, kind of get their applause from the Madison Square Garden crowd. So just
Mean
a
Gene's voice. Oh, it's like butter, and like
yeah.
and it doesn't age. He still sounds the same as he sounded in the 80s, and it's just such a great timbre. It's amazing.
Yeah, even on that one that we talked about last time with the dinner for three or whatever it was called,
Yeah.
where it was like maybe one of the last years that he was, or I think he had maybe 3 or 4 years to go at that point. So he's clearly older, and it's a little rougher than it used to be, but it's still Mean Gene, and it sounds
Yeah.
he just had such a, I don't know, such an instrument.
There was a video package from the actual induction ceremony that was very nice, especially with Bobby Heenan saying that he wishes the only thing that he wishes was that Gorilla Monsoon was there.
Yeah, that was really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that really tugs at your heart. And there was one other thing about that segment and the music of that segment. It's it's got to be from a Thomas Newman soundtrack, and I either think it was from The Road to Perdition or Shawshank Redemption, but I can't find it and it's driving me nuts. And it's not like quite loud enough for like my phone's music recognition to pick it up and do it, because they're talking over it. But if someone out there could please watch that segment and put me out of my misery and tell me what it's from, I'll be ever thankful. I'm pretty sure it is the music from Shawshank Redemption, where Andy Dufresne comes out of the shit pipe in the rain,
Hmm.
or that moment, or from that around that scene. But I can't quite pinpoint it. So please, 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 please help
Wow.
me.
Yeah. And this has to be extra painful because I know you have like really good recognition of that sort of thing. So, please, folks, help Rich out here. So, anyway, let's let me just run down the class of 2004. Again, this is a stellar class. So, Junkyard Dog, he's represented by his daughter Latoya Ritter. Superstar Billy Graham, who looks awesome. Greg the Hammer Valentine, one of my favorites. Magnificent Don Morocco. Big John Studd, who's represented by his son John Minton Jr. Sergeant Slaughter, Tito Santana, heyo, the King Harley Race, Jesse the Body Ventura, and Bobby the Brain Heenan. And then Pete Rose also gets in for the celebrity wing, and the crowd is a little mixed on the reaction to old Pete, but everybody else up there is an absolute star and legend. And this is actually, this is one of the filler segments that I actually didn't mind.
No, I actually always like this moment from the WrestleManias. I did get a real kick out of them introducing Sergeant Slaughter as a former champ and American hero, and the crowd goes crazy for him. But they don't remember that he was champion at WrestleMania 7, and he was a heel Iraqi general.
Yeah, right. Not
He
really
was
American hero.
no, no. Um, and I was also kind of disappointed that Jesse Ventura wasn't all flashy like he used to
Yeah.
be. But I think that's because Billy Graham was also there, and he was
Mm,
kind of a ripoff of Billy Graham.
yeah. He
So
definitely mined the same vein.
yeah, I
So,
think that might have been. I'm pretty certain that Jesse Ventura actually tells a story about how he was basically hired by WWE to replace Billy Graham and to be Billy Graham. And that's why their looks and styles were so similar, that basically WWE just wanted to remake superstar Billy Graham out of Jesse Ventura.
that's interesting. Somebody, when they introduced Harley Race, they said something about him being like legitimate tough guy, which is something I've always sort of heard about him, that he was just a total badass in and out of the ring. I think it was on one of those Dinner for Three things where somebody talks about how just freaking strong that guy's hands were, and he could just like he could rip your phone book in half or whatever it was. All right. Nice little moment there. Hopefully I'll get to see Greg the Hammer Valentine at the Celeb Fest coming up. I'm gonna tell him how much I love that bump where he like stumbles around and falls flat on his face.
Yeah, his
Um,
front bump was incredible.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like maybe the old guys appreciate like when people can call out stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Do we have to do this? It's this is Tory Wilson and Sable versus Miss Jackie and Stacy Keebler in a Playboy evening gown match. The gimmick here is that Sable and Tory were just on the cover and a spread in Playboy magazine, so they're trying to move some merch. They come out in evening gowns. Sable wants to start the match with their evening gowns off, so of course everybody's down to their underwear. Cole and Taz act like 14-year-old boys throughout, and I hate it.
I noted that I should just go take the trash out during this match. The floor of Madison Square Garden had to be so sticky after this bit. I will say that I'm happy that there's a real women's wrestling match on the card as well, that this isn't it. So the whole point of an evening gown match, it's a gimmick match to where they're all in evening gowns and they're wrestling, and they eventually get torn off over time, and it causes like tension, like, oh, might see a titty here or something like that. It doesn't happen like because you just take them off before you start fighting. It That's not an evening gown match.
Kind of defeats the purpose.
So off. And thank God this didn't go for very long.
Yeah. So Tory pins Miss Jackie for the win, if anybody cares, which you don't. Um, so. All right, we get a little Benoit, Chris Benoit, and Eddie Guerrero backstage. Eddie is
Hot.
hot.
Oh,
This segment is you know what, Chris is sort of genuinely scary when he flips out on Eddie here.
yeah. It's like they're I don't know if this is real kind of thing, but it's a great little segment of like Eddie finally going, this is the rage that you need to have when you get in the ring with those two. You're gonna do it. You're gonna get this done. Like it's really good.
Yeah. So he's using the old reverse psychology on Chris Benoit there. So
Yeah.
that's a great backstage. Moving on. Next up is the Cruiserweight Open for the WWE Cruiserweight Championship. I'm just going to run through the list of participants here. I know, more sighing over here. Chavo Guerrero with Chavo Classic in his corner versus Akio Tajiri, aka the Japanese Buzzsaw, Billy Kidman, shout out to a Pennsylvania boy, Funaki, Jamie Noble, Nunzio of the FBI or Full Blooded Italians, you get it. Rey Mysterio Jr., wearing an honest to God Flash costume. That was after his WrestleMania debut, where he's basically wearing a Daredevil costume. And so I kind of
Right.
think Ray was like hoping to get sued by one of the comic companies and maybe he would get something out of it. I don't know.
Or cast. Maybe you'd get casted.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Mm.
Let's see who else is in this thing. Shannon Moore and Ultimo Dragon. I don't know.
Yeah. So the thing is that like this could have been great. This was fun. It was fast moving. It really showcased what the cruiserweights can do, but it showed no respect to what the actual cruiserweight guys can do. So why couldn't we just have a Rey Mysterio versus Chavo match or Rey Mysterio versus Tajiri match? I loved Tajiri back in the day. I loved Ultimo Dragon. I loved Jamie Noble, like, and Billy Kidman. They're all amazing talents, and we get like a 30-second pop of them. Poof, gone, poof, gone, poof, gone. And then suddenly we're Ray and Chavo. And then Chavo Sr. takes a couple bumps, which is spectacular. Um, and then there's a cheap finish at the end of Chavo getting a cheap roll up, cheating, dirty win over Ray. And that's it. Like, we have, like, it's
Yeah, I
such,
mean, what this
you
comes
get,
down to is like a bunch of guys just kind of standing around waiting for their chance to get in the ring, and then most of them are just eliminated so quickly. I think it was Akio can't even compete because he gets green misted in the eyes, so he can't even come in when it's his turn. So they just skip over him. Rey Mysterio eliminates Billy Kidman with an insane sunset flip slash power bomb from the top
oh,
rope.
yeah, that was amazing. I had to rewind and watch that again because it was
Yeah, that
fun.
was nuts. Like that was great. And yeah, I agree with you. I would have much preferred 8 minutes between Mysterio and Chavo Guerrero. It probably would have been a highlight of the card.
Yeah, because I mean, it ended up being just 7 minutes of cheap spots.
Yeah, which is unfortunate. Again, really
Yeah,
talented guys here. Tajiri was great too. I like that guy. I remember those leg kicks
mm.
uh, and those pants that he wore. It always sounded like a
Yeah.
crack of thunder.
He's very reminiscent of Brian Danielson now, with those kicks.
That's a good comparison. They're kind of built the same too. That's a
Yeah,
good one. So. All right, moving on to I'm gonna just go ahead and say to an absolute dog shit of a match. We got Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. Stone Cold Steve Austin's a special guest referee. You know, ostensibly this should be one of the highlights of the card. You know, it's clear that they've really been building to this one. There's a little bit of the old WCW WWE tension, and bringing Goldberg in and it's the WCW version of Stone Cold. Um, Austin has some role to play in sort of the shenanigans to get this going. You know, he sets Goldberg up with a ringside ticket so that he can run into the ring and spear Brock. Like I'm pretty sure that's not legal, um, and that allows Eddie to steal the title. But unfortunately, none of that really translates to what actually goes on in the ring here.
right. So this is also a match that gets ruined by the internet. Um, all heat and tension gets sucked out of this match because the news breaks that Brock Lesnar was leaving WWE to go to the NFL to try his hand at playing for the Minnesota Vikings. And so you have somewhat cheap heat built already just from the involvement of Stone Cold. And there's some really neat segments that lead up to this. Like Lesnar starts driving around on Stone Cold's 4x4 and chugging beer and stuff like that, kind of like a mocking of them. But then this news breaks, and the crowd just isn't having it. I mean, it's a savvy New York wrestling crowd, and they all know that Brock is gone, so there's no real consequence to this match. And you have two things, and you have this pairing of this is a disaster. So Brock can't shoot wrestle with Goldberg,
Right.
but then Goldberg can only shoot because he doesn't know how to actually wrestle.
He just fucking hurts people.
So you have one of the most talented real wrestler people in this match against the person that has absolutely no clue what to do except for pick them up and deliver the jackhammer and spear.
And that's exactly what happens here. Lesnar hits his F5, kicks out. Goldberg hits a spear and a jackhammer and a 3 count. The whole thing's very perfunctory. I mean, it starts really, really slow. They're circling. They're trying to build up the tension. But honestly, the crowd, like you said, they're not having it.
No.
There's a "this match sucks" chant, I'm pretty sure, at one point. Then there's, of course, then "you sold out" chants for Lesnar. And there's just nothing happening here. It's a whole thing's a big disappointment, honestly.
Yeah, I remember my dad telling me that this match was going to suck. That there's no way this was going to be a good match, and I was like, "That's impossible, Dad. There's no way that a match between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar is going to be terrible." Jesus Christ, he was right. Like,
Man, your dad knew what was up.
I know I had to go home and like tell him, Dad, you're right. That match was horrible. And then there's like botches in this match too. There's a really ugly collision in the middle of the ring where their heads collide and they both look stunned, like legit stunned. There were some impressive moments though, like Goldberg does a military press of Brock and then turns it into a spine buster. Like, Christ, man. Like,
Yeah, that's just physical strength, though. That's not necessarily like, wrestling prowess. I mean, the most talented guy in the ring here is Stone Cold, right? And he doesn't get to do anything. So he's just kind of prowl around the edges. And he's also a non-factor in this match, which is
right.
a fascinating choice given that, they've set him up as sort of making all this happen and coming up with the machinations to make this match happen. And then he just hangs out.
So I have a conspiracy theory about this, like that Stone Cold wants to kind of sabotage this match, because if you're watching, like the "you sold out" chant is happening, and like it's somewhat there. It's present, but it's not dominant. And then Stone Cold uses a subtle little turn of his head to look at the crowd, and then suddenly everybody in that arena is chanting "you sold out" in unison.
Oh
Like
man.
he gives like this little cue to the crowd to let them have it. And I think he did that to actually like indicate to them, like, your stare down at the beginning isn't working. Just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I think at that point Stone Cold probably knew that this match was going to be shit and that nothing's going to come out of it. And so he just kind of lays back and does what he needs to do to get out of there, because Stone Cold is now tied to the shittiest match of all time.
Yeah, but I mean, he comes out the best, right? Because after the match is over, he stuns Lesnar and gets a cold beer, and then he hands one to Goldberg, and it sort of looks like, oh, okay, we've got the original Stone Cold, and the Stone Cold clone, kind of closing up the gap here. But no, Goldberg gets a stunner too. So, yeah, I mean, of these 3 men that go in the ring, Stone Cold comes out looking the best, which, good on him. People talk about
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan sort of backstage savvy and playing the game and all that stuff, but like Stone Cold knew what was up. He's also all over this goddamn WrestleMania for not having any matches. He is involved in sort of the build up to multiple things that happen on this match, which shows you that I think, even though he wasn't really active wrestling anymore, the WWE knew, like, you don't have anybody at this caliber who can pop the crowd like Stone Cold. And so we need that guy to kind of hang around and sort of give his blessing, sort of, even if it's only kind of implicit to some of this crap that's going on.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a transition period, and I would argue that that's the same reason why The Rock and Mick Foley are on this card as well. Still,
Yeah.
they have a power vacuum of such at the top of their card. It's Shawn's return isn't quite there. Triple H doesn't quite have the draw that like Stone Cold and The Rock had. Flair's too old.
Yeah.
Cena isn't there yet. They're ignoring Booker T. So they have no choice but to try and suck The Rock and Stone Cold and Mick Foley back into the realm one more time.
Yeah. All right. So last thing I want to say about this match, and I think it'll probably be after WrestleMania 38 till we put this match out. But I'm a little worried that this is going to be what Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar looks like when we finally get that match. Like two huge guys who don't quite add up in the ring. I think the difference is, thankfully, that Roman Reigns is much, much more talented than Bill Goldberg, obviously, and that Brock Lesnar has had a lot more years of experience at this point about how to put an actual wrestling match together. So that stuff might save it, but
And they're both more over. So if they do have a long stare down at the beginning of the match, it's going to build up the crowd as opposed to you sold out.
yeah. So, watch her say all this stuff, and then right before WrestleMania 38, news will come out that Roman Reigns is leaving WWE to become Aquaman permanently, and he's never going to wrestle again. And then we'll have a full-on repeat. So,
Yeah.
good thing Stone Cold will be there
And
to,
Lesnar can see how it feels.
All right, so let's put that match away because that was hot garbage. Let's move on to another fatal four-way because we've only had one of those so far.
Well, before that, though.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So we have a flashback of old WrestleMania to where they advertise where the next WrestleMania is going to be.
Oh, I missed it.
Yeah, so they advertise where WrestleMania 21 is going to be, which is something that we hadn't seen them do in a while. And then they set off fireworks from the roof of Madison Square Garden, which I'm sure everybody that lives in that neighborhood really loved.
3 years after 9/11, mind you.
Right, right. And then Vince McMahon comes out, not in character. Blah blah blah. Thanks to crowd. This is where it all begins again. Fuck you. Okay.
We get it. I must have been pooping during that bit.
I mean,
So.
it's a good time to go poop.
Yeah. All right. Back to this next fatal four-way. You may want to go poop while I run down the lists of participants here. We've got Too Cool, which is Rikishi and Scotty Too Hottie, versus the APA, of course, Bradshaw and Ron Farouk Simmons. Holla. The Basham brothers, Danny and Doug Basham, and the world's greatest tag team, Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, formerly Team Angle, I think, right? I just wrote down I'm getting really tired of this WrestleMania.
I
That's
wrote
all.
down just nothing going on here, and that this is continuing the demonstration that WWE just doesn't give a shit about tag teams at this point in time. The only real note that I made about what's happening in this match is one that Shelton Benjamin tries to do a belly to back suplex on Rikishi, which is hilarious. It does not work.
Ill-advised.
And then one of the Bashams, I can't tell the difference between them, so Basham, he takes a stink face from Rikishi, and Michael Cole declares that the stink face is a WrestleMania tradition.
I don't
This is
think that's
Rikishi's
true.
first WrestleMania since appearing as the Sultan at WrestleMania 13.
Yeah.
But it's a WrestleMania tradition.
Are
Fuck
you
you, Michael Cole. I caught you again.
What a liar. Are you sure about that? Didn't I feel like he gave a stink face to like Mae Young or one of those ladies at a previous.
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
think he had been anywhere at a WrestleMania between 13 and 19.
All right.
Or
Oh,
13 and 20, right?
we'll put our research department on that.
This is Rich breaking in with a fact check on himself. Rikishi appeared at WrestleMania 16 partnering with Kane and giving Tory a stink face. Rikishi also appeared in the freebie match before WrestleMania 18. And now back to WrestleMania 20.
Yeah, Rikishi and Scotty win this one so that they can do their dance. Rich goes into some really good detail about Rikishi's career on that latest Popcorn Match episode on the NOI family. I would take a listen to that. I learned a lot of stuff. I learned the name of the little sumo getup that he and Yokozuna wore, and
The
um,
Mawashi.
the Mawashi. Thank you. Obviously, I didn't learn it that well that I could have remembered it there, but we're hoping to catch him at one of these celebrity things here before too long, too. So,
I think he's going to be at Celebfest 4. I think I saw his name listed at something.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
That might be good. So, all right, another little bullshit segment. Jesse Ventura looks awful. He's got a black do-rag on. It kind of makes him, I think he thinks it makes him look cool, but it just kind of makes him look like he's got cancer or something.
He looks a little sickly, yeah.
He comes down to interview Donald Trump in the crowd. I did get a kick. The crowd is decidedly mixed on Donald. They
boo him. He gets a
yeah,
solid boo.
New York never did like that guy.
No.
For good reasons. And Ventura sort of hints that, now that he's been governor of Minnesota, he's, maybe going to run for a higher office. And we may see a wrestler in the White House in 2008.
And this is the second time we had to hear Jesse Ventura say that tonight, because he also said that during the Hall of Fame stuff. So it's like Jesse Ventura is definitely trying to use WrestleMania to kick off a political career, extended political career, and he asks Donald Trump for a political donation.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure that's legal, but and then Trump says he'll do it.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't ever let a little thing like legality stop him. Yeah, he asks if he could expect Trump's, quote, moral and financial support. And like, I don't think that guy has any morals to give you. So
he probably actually didn't have financial support for real either. Like,
yeah. So that segment is unfortunate, and it's over now. So let's move on to the actual honest to God women's match, not an evening gown match or a fake evening gown match. This is Victoria versus Molly Holly in a hair versus title match for the WWE Women's Championship. Molly is a heel, I guess, now, and not a superhero anymore. I kind of liked when she was a superhero along with Hurricane Helms, and they could both fly.
Yeah, that's cute.
The crowd is really kind of bored. I don't know.
The shitty women's evening gown match kind of like turns you off from wanting to watch women's wrestling if that's all it's going to be. And then, but these two actually come out and work a good match because Victoria is good and Molly Holly is talented. There is a little kid ringside that's giving Molly shit, which is amazing. You hear this little kid going, "You're gonna get your head shaved, Molly. You're gonna lose. She's gonna beat you." Like, this kid is like zero chill digging in on Molly.
Where's Jimmy Snuka when you need him to smack some kids around?
I know.
Victoria gives Molly a backslide for the win and straps her to the barber chair. I don't think most barber chairs are supposed to have straps, but whatever. And then shaves her head, and that part goes on forever.
Yeah, Molly kind of looked like Kane with her head buzzed. I thought that was kind of funny.
That was unfortunate.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually not a terrible match all told. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but compared to the crap we've seen earlier, it's not bad. So if you've managed to hang in to this WrestleMania this long, this is where your devotion gets rewarded, because we've got actually 3 matches in a row here to wrap this thing up that are really, really good in my opinion. And we start off with Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle for the WWE Championship. And man, am I excited for this one.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
That's Rich's happy noise as opposed to his exasperated noise from earlier. So
this one's delicious. You got 2 guys that know how to wrestle, and they're going to wrestle, and it's going to be great. And you just know it's going to be great. And because the setup for it's great, the story's great. And then while they're introducing Eddie Guerrero to come to the ring, you can still see them out on the ramp breaking down the barbershop set or the head shaving. Like, find a
Right.
different camera
Yeah.
angle, run a little video promo while they get rid of that set, so that like Eddie gets a proper introduction or something mildly respectful.
Well, so now you guys are in a rush, right? Like
Right.
after 3.5 damn hours or whatever it's been at this point. Yeah, there's really good "You Suck" chants in time to Angle's music, which I always appreciate. The crowd is split between "Let's Go Angle" and "Angle Sucks" chants, which I also appreciate. Both of those things can be true. You can want Angle to go, and you can also tell him he sucks. Yeah, this is a work of art, actually. So the one that kind of comes to mind immediately was the Angle versus Benoit match from WrestleMania 17, and that was similar in that it was highly technical and Kurt Angle is being awesome. I would say this one is much more like pro wrestling than technical, if you know what I mean.
But I mean, Benoit is much more of a mat technician than Eddie Guerrero is, but Eddie Guerrero does know his stuff, and he does keep pace with Kurt pretty well. But it's clear that Kurt is outworking him. But you would expect that, and that's how it should be, just because we still know that Kurt Angle is an Olympic gold medalist in like amateur shoot wrestling. So Eddie should not be able to beat him on the mat, and that totally makes sense. And so they really do a good job with that. There's a super great exchange that ends with a missed frog splash,
Yeah.
and like Eddie gets a second win when Angle's is trying to punch him as opposed to like really wrestle. Once it turns into like strikes, Eddie's like, oh well, now we're fighting from the street, I can deal with this. And I felt like Angle must have gone back and watched some of the tapes of Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero fighting each other in WCW, because if you haven't ever watched some of their matches from like Nitro and stuff, give yourself a little treat. Take some time to sit down with the cock and go watch them.
That's the Peacock, ladies and gentlemen, the streaming service, just to clarify. Yeah, that sequence that ends with the frog splash, that was really awesome. So Eddie's sort of like sitting on top of the rope and Kurt keeps trying to like climb up and punch him in the head or whatever. And he does it like twice and Eddie like pushes him off and Kurt takes these like full back body bumps off of the rope after being pushed off. Those were awesome. There's German suplexes that you mentioned. There's some snap suplexes from Eddie that are just friggin' badass. This was fantastic. One of my favorite moves here was where Kurt tries to pick Eddie up for the angle slam, which has him sort of going across Angle's shoulders. But Eddie kind of like swings around his neck and then hits a DDT on him. And
Oh
he
yeah.
does manage to hit the frog splash after that one.
Eddie Guerrero has 4 different counters to the ankle lock in this match. And the last one is the most genius that he has. And so there's a moment, Angle's out of the ring, and we see Eddie loosening the laces on his boot. And Taz brilliantly is filling in that, you've been in that ankle lock so many times, it's possible that his ankle is sprained or even broken and it's swelling up, and he's trying to relieve that pressure by loosening his boot. And so Angle gets back in the ring and slaps that ankle lock right back on. But then we see Eddie wiggle and he puts his foot up against Angle's chest and pushes. And suddenly Angle is just standing there holding Eddie Guerrero's boot, and he's confused and he gets rolled up for the pin.
That was such an awesome finish. And the other thing that Eddie does is he rolls him up and he like wraps his legs around Kurt, like sort of to his backside, and hooks both of his feet on the ropes. Like it was incredible. It was sort of reminiscent of that Macho Man finish that we talked about on the Wrestling Classic, where he does like 3 things at once in the
Yeah.
course of falling off of the ropes. That was such a great finish. That was one. Actually, I think that's probably maybe one of my favorite finishes I think I've ever seen in any wrestling match. It's so creative. It also really fits into, the gimmick or the image that Eddie is sort of constantly portraying, right? Which is that he's this guy, he'll resort to dirty tricks if he has to, and
Nothing in the rules say he's got to keep his boot on,
yeah, no, for sure. Well, and throughout the match, Kurt keeps going back to that ankle lock, and Eddie keeps flipping out of it, right? So
Right.
he knows that when Angle gets back in the ring after he's been sort of knocked out there outside, he's going to go directly for the ankle. He knows which ankle he's going to go for. That was brilliant. I mean, I
Yeah.
think I don't know. I can't say enough good things about that match.
Yeah, there's nothing really to fault that match, and it was even like the perfect length too. Like
Yeah.
they had just the right amount of time.
Total runtime on that one was 21 minutes, which sounds long, but compared to, say, the 17 minutes for the Rock and Sock Connection versus Evolution, it's no time at all. Just flies
The
right
evening
by.
gown match felt longer than that match. So
Yeah. No, that was fantastic. All right, so that's one excellent match to wrap up the show or slide into sort of the end of it here. The next one's coming up, and we've got The Undertaker back with Paul Bearer versus Kane. You're going to have to
oh,
try to keep it under control. Um, so, you guys know if you've listened to this or read the blog that Rich is a huge Undertaker fan and that he's an even bigger fan of the sort of the original Dead Man Undertaker. So Rich might flip out here, and we can't really be responsible for anything that goes out in this episode. But just if you have small children, it might be a good time to put the podcast on the
yeah.
headphones or tell them to go play with their Nintendos or whatever it is kids do these days. So
So I mean, we got to set it up with the story of like Kane gives this promo that's amazing. He's just shitting all over the Undertaker's American Badass gimmick. That like you sold out, you abandoned me in the darkness, you left me again. I can't believe it. You might be a badass, but you're actually weak and a wimp, and blah 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 blah. And so then we get Kane. Now he comes out to the ring and he's standing in the ring, and then suddenly the lights go out, and you hear the "Oh yes" of Paul
that
Bearer come over the PA.
that garden crowd flipped its wig when he does that.
Oh
And I mean, I
yeah.
kind of flipped my own wig if I had one.
This like eerie like chanting music, and like these guys in robes carrying torches comes out and lines the aisle, and the crowd is dead silent. Like they can't believe what they're seeing. And then the Undertaker's bells start tolling, and then you just kind of see the Undertaker again. Like you don't even see him walk out. He's just there in front of the video wall, and he's kind of dressed in like an updated version of his old gimmick of like he looks like an old west Undertaker kind of thing that you would picture out of like Deadwood, but in like leather with a leather duster. The moment he shows up and look at him, you just know that Kane is fucked.
Yeah. This is not going to end well for him.
No, and like there's smoke and the lights are out, there's black lights and there's guys with torches, and like shit's about to get real for Kane real quick. And as like the Undertaker's making his way to the ring, you get these camera shots of Kane and his face, and Kane screaming, "You are not real. You are not," like he's like shitting himself, and like the crowd just goes ballistic.
So I think for all the theatrics and all the, just pure friggin' theater, I give got to give kudos to Kane and Glenn Jacobs for acting his ass off. He's like, yeah, he said, "You're not real." He said, "You're dead." He said, "I buried you," and he's flipping out. He's got his mask off here, so usually you don't get any kind of facial reactions from him. So, but he's really selling up. So Rich had kind of given me a heads up that the dead man was coming back here for this WrestleMania. But I wasn't expecting it to be this cool, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, this was shades of like old school Undertaker, like the SummerSlam where he comes rolling out in a hearse, or like the was it WrestleMania 9 where he comes out with the vulture next to him on the chariot and stuff. So, but he just takes it up a whole notch here. Yeah, I didn't take many notes, but like this match is almost a squash, not quite,
Yeah.
but like it's kind of like Kane is trying, but he just can't because he's still just thrown off his game by like the real Undertaker has come back. It kind of had like that notes of like when it was Paul Bearer's Undertaker versus Ted DiBiase's Undertaker kind of thing. That they can't believe that the real Undertaker's back, and like Undertaker's landing all of his spots. He goes up for old school, and like the Kane does counter it with a choke slam grip, but then the Undertaker gets him in a grip, and like Kane does chokeslam the Undertaker, and the Undertaker takes a hell of a bump on it. He bounces off the mat. And like Kane thinks he's finally got him, but then the Undertaker sits straight back up, and then a tombstone. And JR delivers the line. He has been tombstone pile driven, his demented brother Kane, all the way to the outskirts of hell.
Nice.
Like JR's back too.
Yeah. Yeah, this one wraps up in just under 7 minutes, so it's a short one. Yeah, I wrote down some of the same things. Obviously, Undertaker kind of going back to those old school moves, big boots, big leg drops. There's a nice leg drop on the apron. That looked really tough. Here's my only 2 criticisms for this one. One is I always thought the Undertaker's eyeball thing where he rolls his eyeballs up was cheesy. Like it's a trick that like you learn to do in elementary school. Like it's not scary or whatever. I just think it's dumb. And the other thing is he's wearing his like stupid MMA gloves here, which is sort of a leftover from his American Badass thing, and it kind of like spoils the aesthetic. I know he's not supposed to be an Old West Undertaker here, but like, come on, you don't need boxing gloves for this.
Those are both very fair criticisms. I don't mind the eye roll. It's the tongue that he started doing at this point with it. Like the eye roll kind of is this kind of like an undead kind of looking thing, but then like the tongue is kind of like this like monstrous like snaky look. Like no, it
Like
doesn't.
Gene Simmons.
It didn't really fit in my opinion.
Yeah.
But other than that stuff, this match was like ASMR for me. Like I had chills with the bells. Like
No, it was brilliant. There's really nothing to criticize it there. So fantastic match. All right. You have anything else to say about that one? Do you need a moment? All right. Again.
Yes. Oh yeah.
All right. So you can probably bring your kids back in the room now if you want to, listeners, or not. Maybe it's just best. All right, last match, main event. It's a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight Championship between Chris Benoit, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. As Rich mentioned at the top of the show, the setup for this one is a Triple H and Shawn Michaels are feuding, but Chris Benoit won the Royal Rumble, so he actually should have, kind of dibs on the main event at WrestleMania. So, to settle everything, because this is how things work, they're going to do it triple threat. And there's a stipulation here that Triple H doesn't have the champion's advantage, so he can't sort of just keep the belt by count out or disqualification. So somebody's got to win this one.
Chris Benoit won the Royal Rumble. He spent 62 minutes in the ring in that Royal Rumble. He did like a Flair-esque performance in that Royal Rumble, and so that kind of also telegraphs the result of this match a little bit. This is also the era where like Stone Cold is just delivering bad news to people. So like if you notice through this whole show, every time there's like a segment and someone's getting like bad news, it's Stone Cold on his 4-wheeler coming rolling out, and it's like, guess what, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, your match is gonna be a triple threat match with Chris Benoit now. And then he gets back on and rolls out of there. Like
that should have been his after wrestling career, honestly. Just like go around and deliver bad news to people. It'd be amazing.
You can do your laundry on cold water now.
Guess what? Your lab results are in, and it's taint cancer. Oh, that's
your
too bad.
Cholesterol's high.
You got shark AIDS. Anyway, so
your wife's leaving you, and that's the bottom line.
She's leaving you for Shawn Michaels. Anyway, so I don't know. There's a funny, really. The only sign alert I wrote down for this whole WrestleMania actually is during Benoit's intro. There's somebody has a Canadian flag. It says "Toothless Aggression" on it.
Oh yeah, well that was kind of his slogan a little bit. Like
he has no teeths.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting that they introduced Benoit as now residing in Atlanta, Georgia, instead of saying that he's from Montreal, Quebec.
Yeah, that's weird.
And he did live in Georgia at that time, and I wondered if that was like an homage kind of to the lineage of the belt that's on the line, because this is the World Heavyweight Championship, so it's the old NWA, WCW, Jim Crockett promotion, Georgia Championship Wrestling Championship belt.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't catch that. They start out real slow and formal. Ref Earl Hebner is checking each man's tights and boots and wrist tape, which is something that we've noticed they do occasionally at these main events, kind of make it seem like a real sporting contest. When the bell rings, Benoit and Michaels are sort of fighting each other for the opportunity to wail on Triple H there. Um, and so the Michaels and Triple H feud may have been the sort of catalyst for this whole thing, but clearly Benoit is here and it's personal for him and Michaels, and he's ready to throw down.
Basically, like the whole like thing is that they're kind of like Benoit's the third wheel little kid trying to get in. Like the Shawn Michaels and Triple H are the adults, and Benoit's the child trying to get into the match. Like he just wants some attention from somebody. Please, mommy, love me, kind of thing. And that kind of ends up setting up like the standard triple threat formula that happens in these matches, to where someone takes a bump, they disappear for a couple minutes so the other two guys can get their moment, and then conveniently, as one person from that pairing takes a bump, the other person is back from the dead and comes back and fights. And so you just constantly go round and round and round with that until they decide who's going to win.
Yeah, for sure.
And that kind of happens in this match, and it's why I don't like triple threat matches normally.
Yeah, it gets a little formulaic real quick. So there's some really good moves and some, interesting exchanges. Anyway, especially as you would expect with
Yeah.
Benoit involved. There's some really great chops. There's a couple of times where like Michaels tries to punch him and he like sort of slips it and tries to turn it into an armbar. It's like some judo shit. That was cool. There's some back bridge
Yeah.
pins. He nails 3 German suplexes on a row on Michaels. That was really nice.
Yeah, after Shawn tried
Yeah.
to do it to him, and the crowd booed Michaels like crazy for trying to do it. And then my normal complaint with Shawn Michaels is that he oversells, and he oversells the suplexes
Yeah,
for
that last
Benoit.
one he kind of like
But
pops up. Um, so
yeah,
yeah, I don't know. So I actually enjoyed this match a lot more than I expected to. I have the same problem with the triple threat matches, but this one it did break down into that kind of formula that you were talking about. But also, there's just enough variety to it. And honestly, like Chris Benoit is just so damn talented that like that
he's so good.
it kept
He
it
was
going.
so good.
So like Sean does his like flip over the corner thing and whatever, but then Benoit tries to put the sharpshooter on, and when he can't quite get it, he just catapults Sean into the ring post, and Sean comes back bleeding like crazy. I didn't. That must have been the hard way, right? Like,
No, he bladed himself. If you go back and look at it, while he's got his shoulders on the mat and Benoit is wrestling him into
ah, shit,
position, you can see Michaels rub his wrist across his hairline,
man, I totally missed it.
and then he slams his hand into it when he hits the turnbuckle ring post area to really get it
Well,
going.
that was some brilliant blade work then, because that
Yeah,
was
it was tough to see, but that's when it
because he
happened.
bounces back off of the ring post and it's like instant. His face is just a bloody mess, and he like flips his hair back, and so the crowd gets a look at it, and you can hear the crowd react.
Crowd gets Hep C. Yeah.
You can hear him react to seeing his bloody forehead there. So man, now I got to go back
Yeah.
and watch it. Like, I was looking at it was like David Copperfield shit. It's like look over here, and then
Yeah.
it was actually over there. So
Yeah, it's really good because, like, I mean, Benoit is drawing your attention, like, jostling and setting him up for it.
you got sharp eyes. I missed it. So some more outside of the ring stuff. There's a lot of really tough moves in this one. They climb up on the Spanish announcers table. So R.I.P. to the Spanish announcers table. Both Triple H and Michaels have to cooperate to suplex Benoit. There's a nice or a nice holy shit chant from the crowd after that one.
Yeah. Actually, I think the Spanish announce table gets spared. They're on it, but Benoit gets suplexed off of it onto the SmackDown table. So I think the
Oh,
SmackDown table actually eats it here. But yeah,
it's too bad Michael Cole wasn't there to get hurt.
yeah, he should have. He should have taken it right in the face. JR does a really good job of selling Benoit's injury through the commentary off of that suplex, and it's interesting that like Triple H and Shawn Michaels both believe that Benoit has been neutralized at that point, so they just head back to the ring and they start fighting like crazy as if Benoit doesn't exist anymore, which has been kind of like the whole story of this whole match. So like while it does fall into that kind of like formula that triple threat matches tend to, it is helping tell the story. Like Benoit keeps trying to force himself into the story and trying to force himself into the action and be the center, and it's just not working. And so Triple H finally, thinks that they got Benoit done after that.
But of course they don't.
Then also this is something else that WWE does in a lot of their matches that I don't like, and that a wrestler lands the finisher, but they don't have the energy to get the pin. And this one was especially egregious because Triple H was in charge of the whole like attack against Shawn, and then like pedigree Shawn, and it looks like it should just be done, but Triple H then flops over onto his back and is done. Dude, you were just going a million miles an hour a second ago. Like, I don't understand how now how you don't have the
Well, he's
energy
tired now.
to just lay on
Yeah.
top of him. And Triple H starts bleeding around then too, and I did not see how that would
Yeah, he
happen.
gets bumped into the ring post when they're outside, but I'm not sure exactly where the cut happened. So
Yeah.
yeah, you mentioned Jim Ross. He's losing his shit on the mic over there. He's like, "If anyone in the back can hear me, we need an EMT out here for Chris Benoit." He's
Yeah.
dropping a lot of good gods. There's a Crimson Mask makes an appearance. He's all over it. So yeah, so Benoit comes flying back in, slaps a
He slaps a
sharpshooter.
sharpshooter on Triple
Yeah,
H.
that was beauty. That was a beauty.
Yeah.
Hunter's selling like crazy. He's doing the Stone Cold like push up move with the Crimson Mask, and he's like crawling to the ropes. So he drags him back to the center, and then
He eats a super kick from Shawn
yeah,
Michaels. A brutal
yeah,
one. Looks rough.
yeah. While he's like crouched down in the sharpshooter, so there's like nowhere for him to go to like deflect
Yeah.
to get away from that thing.
At that point, Shawn Michaels is actually being openly booed by the crowd. Like, it's very clear everybody hates Shawn Michaels.
As they should, because he's a terrible human being.
Yeah, it's an important thing to note that everybody hates Shawn Michaels.
the Shawn, goes back to one of my favorite sign alerts. It's not on this special. I think it was from a Raw. This guy's sign just says Shawn Michaels can die. I think about that sign a lot.
It's good.
So
Yeah.
so he eats that super kick. Then
Benoit locks, I think, Triple H into the crippler crossface and is screaming like a banshee maniac. Like, oh, it's so
yeah,
good.
he actually reverses a pedigree to get into that move, which was brilliant.
Yeah.
And then that's when he does this like cool thing where he like flips over Triple H and to move him away from the ropes. So and then
Yeah.
Triple H finally taps
Yeah.
out.
And he's all bloody and like scary looking, and like Benoit is screaming. It's like, oh, this is some good shit.
Yeah, it was amazing. And then Eddie Guerrero comes down and like embraces his friend, and he's crying, and Chris Benoit's crying, everybody's crying, the mailman and dogs are embracing, and I was crying, Rich was crying, his child was crying, my dog was crying, everybody was crying. Of the three at the end of this WrestleMania, that one was better than I expected it to be. It's probably not my favorite of those three. So maybe it's
Yeah.
time to talk about actually what do you think was your best match for this WrestleMania?
My favorite match was Kurt Angle versus Eddie Guerrero. It has a clever ending, great storytelling. There's impressive mat and ring work. It had everything. I can't really think of anything to fault that match.
Yeah, no, it was stellar. I kind of went back and forth between that one and the triple threat match, but I got to go with you on the Eddie Guerrero versus Kurt Angle. So fantastic work from those guys. Fantastic storytelling. That, like I said, that finish was top notch. What was your worst match?
I went with the Playboy evening gown match, but it was actually really close between the Rock and Sock connection versus Evolution. And mainly just because like you lure Mick Foley and The Rock back to WrestleMania and that's what you do with them. The match was technically better than the evening gown match, especially when it wasn't really an evening gown match because they all decide just to take their gowns off beforehand. Like, were they all rented from David's Bridal? And that's why? And like WWE didn't want to pay for them?
They didn't want
So
to get him torn up.
yeah, the only thing that was going for the evening gown match was that it was short.
Yeah, mine. I don't know. There's some real duds on this WrestleMania. Honestly, I think worst match is actually the Cruiserweight Tournament, which kind of hurts me a little bit to say because there are some really talented people and really good moments in that particular match. But as you said, it's
Mm.
just such a waste of all the guys who are involved. I would much, much rather have had, again, 8 minutes of Rey Mysterio versus Chavo Guerrero. This just felt like a fucking waste of time and like just kind of made me mad.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a demonstration still of them having that their roster is so bloated and full because of the WCW acquisition still that even splitting into two brands wasn't enough. They could have started NXT now at this point and put the cruiserweights into NXT and had a very engaging, great television show themselves.
Yeah. They could have called it like WWE International or something.
Yeah, something. But then they would need another 2-hour television spot somewhere
Yeah.
to do it. So,
All right. What was your oh shit moment for this one?
oh yes. I mean, the whole Undertaker's entrance
I knew
really
it.
is my oh shit moment, and I don't need to diatribe on that again.
I
So,
knew it. I knew that's what you were going to pick.
of course, it was. Of
So
course.
funny. Yeah, well, and you're out of tissues from before, so we don't want to get back into it. Mine, I think, was Shawn getting that color out of nowhere, honestly, off of the ring post, and then the crowd getting their first look at his bloody head when he swings his hair back, because it all
Oh yeah,
happens like in like such a like quick succession that it was actually a really interesting moment.
it's a great
Yeah.
blading moment. It's probably one of the best things that Shawn has ever done that I've liked, that I've seen. Like, it was great. It was great that he made himself bleed.
All right. So overall review and star rating out of 5.
I'm giving this one a 3.5. For this one, I started at a 5 rating and then deduct points along the way, kind of like a figure skating judging. Because in general, I thought that the matches were great. I didn't find that there was really a dud of a match on this card, except for the evening gown match. But if you're really being real, it doesn't really count. It's almost like a extended backstage spot or something. But then we look at the runtime.
Yeah.
So that's minus 0.5 because Jesus Christ, it was long. And it didn't need to be. There was some video packages and promos that didn't need to be there. The main event is a triple threat, which falls into the triple threat standard format. So that's minus 0.25. We have Jesse Ventura begging Donald Trump for political donations. That's another minus 0.25. We have disrespect to the tag titles by not having straight up challenges for them, that they just do these fatal 4-ways just to get bodies out there because they think that more people in the ring, more people like it. So that's minus 0.25. And then letting Randy Orton talk way too long. That's another 0.25 off the score. Right. Letting him exist is a detriment to this program.
If you
So
if
that leaves us at a 3.5.
if there was a fire and you could only save Randy Orton or Shawn Michaels, you had to save one of them. Which one would you save?
I would die with them.
For the sake of America.
Right.
Yeah.
Just I'm done. I've had a good run.
I think you'd go to heaven for that.
I think so too.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
Um,
How about you?
I
What's your rating for
I
this one?
like that system. I like the points deductions. I may have to try that for the next one. Um, Maybe I'll do that for WrestleMania 38, and if I get to 0, like I just get to stop watching, right?
Yeah, so I mean that means you'll probably be done within the first hour.
Yeah, hell yeah. All right, this is a great plan. I didn't do anything nearly that scientific. I would probably come in right around where you did, honestly. 3.5, maybe 3. It's not the worst one we've seen for sure. It's pretty far from our best one. There are a lot of things to take away from it. Wasting Booker T, 2 fatal 4-ways, that whole handicap match. Like I said, the cruiserweight one, and Goldberg and Lesnar, all bad. Those 3 matches at the end really bring it up by, I'd say, almost a star and a half easily. And the Hall of Fame stuff, actually, I really liked. I think that's good. One of the things I will give this one is that didn't have any performances by Incubus or Stained or Limp Bizkit or any of those folks. So that's very helpful.
It did have an official theme, and that official theme was "Step Up" by Drowning Pool. So Drowning
God
Pool was still
damn it.
involved, but they weren't there.
Yeah.
And so like, I don't remember actually really hearing the song during the show that much.
Yeah, I didn't remember that either. I would have probably deducted a half star if I had to.
It wasn't like they stopped the show completely and be like, "Hey, look, we have a rock band here now. Let's listen to them."
Yeah, thank God for that. Time for our In Memoriam segment. So as we always do, we like to pay tribute to the men and women featured in the episode who are no longer with us. For WrestleMania 20, that is, I'm going to say Chris Benoit and Eddie Guerrero at the top as the MVPs of this WrestleMania. Both amazing talents. I'm really sad watching them here that they're no longer with us. The rest of the In Memoriam for this one are Matthew Rosie, NOI, Paul Bearer, Garrison Cade, real name Lance Benoit, Fabulous Moolah, Howard Finkel, Salvador Guerrero III, aka Chavo Classic, Bobby the Brain Heenan, Junkyard Dog, Mean Gene Okerlund, King Harley Race, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, Big John Studd, and Mae Young. So we thank you once again for listening. We really hope you've enjoyed this review of WrestleMania 20. Remember to visit our podcast website for older episodes and other content, including some of Rich's amazing theme music work at allthewrestlemanias.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at All the WrestleManias, and follow us on Twitter at WrestleManiaPod. For now, we're your co-hosts Tim Hackman.
And I'm Rich Sigwald.
Saying so long, everybody.